Hello, 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 good evening. Hey guys. So, what I bring you today is wow, it looks like I'm an angel. Like, with the. Hold on. Oh, this is hilarious. Much better. Much better. All right. So, I had an amazing day, and I had went to see a lady at the hospital that had just delivered a baby and had really an encounter with death when she had her baby, and was pretty much didn't have the ability to take care of her baby, her brand new baby, 2 weeks old, less than 2 weeks old. So I now have a baby that I'm helping take care of. But I'm very happy to be here, and I have done my homework, and I wanted to jump here to talk about the testimony, the amazing testimony of Detective Hermosillo. And Detective, by the way, Hermosillo, if you translate it literally, is a Hispanic name, and if you translate it literally, it means the little beautiful thing, Hermosillo. So, and it was both a beautiful thing and a sad thing to hear him. First and foremost, I think he's a powerful witness in Lori Vallow's trial. By the way, I'm Pastor and Coach Gene McIntyre, and I'm so happy that you're here. Thank you for joining us. One of these days, I'll learn how to do this correctly. His testimony is probably going to be one of the most powerful testimonies in the whole trial. And I want to start by talking about the defense and all their objections, their stupid objections, that in my estimation, all they're causing is for the jury to see how they're trying desperately to deviate this guy's testimony. Like, for example, they would object like, well, how do you know that picture of the remains of Tylee and JJ is the real picture? How do you know that? Or how can you tell that this is the way things happen? Or why did you want did you want this was the one that bothered me the most. What was the crime that you were trying to get a an order to to um, to get in their house without their will? What was the crime? And the guy's like, there were children that were disappeared, and they were lying about their whereabouts. It's like, how, if the defense thinks that that helps, that's not helping. That's making them look like idiots, and eventually it's going to backfire. And so, but I mean, the testimony was powerful. He takes them all the way to November of 2019, where Charles Vallow is killed by Lori Vallow's brother. Then someone attempts to kill Boudreaux, the husband of Lori Vallow's niece. And the amazing thing is that it is his observation. He observes that the gun that was trying to kill him came from a Jeep that he knew belonged to Tylee. And so he reports that he was almost murdered. And when he does that, and they compare notes with the other police department is having question marks by Kay Woodcock that they have not seen little JJ Vallow, and they're like, we need to do something about this. And like, they start comparing notes, and that is how the investigation gets full force. But at the beginning, this Mr. Hermosillo, Detective Hermosillo, didn't even have an idea that there were missing children. Like, he was just investigating that there had been a Jeep that was allegedly used in an attempted murder. And then they put two and two together and realized that this is coming from the same place. So again, Charles Vallow gets murdered. Then Boudreaux, there's an attempt against his life. Then there's an attempt against the life of Tammy Daybell. And then 1 or 2 days later, she dies mysteriously in her house. Then at that point, they discover also that Tylee and JJ are nowhere to be found. And so it's crazy. It all and all that started happening in rapid succession as they move to Idaho, to that compound where they just live next to one another. And so it's like they needed money. They needed money to finance this cult, this false belief system. They needed money to finance their lifestyle, because don't forget, Lori Vallow was a translated human being, a translated goddess of sorts. And she, together with Chad, they had lived in prior lives together, and they were going to usher the coming of Christ through getting together the 144,000 and all these people that they were killing. They were actually just delivering them because they were actually possessed by zombies, and the only way to deliver them was to kill them. Incredible. Incredible. And now they're both sitting in jail, and Lori Vallow is standing trial for the murder of her kids. And at some point yesterday, she told the judge that through her defense that she had a weak mind and that she didn't feel good, and that she was willing to waive being in the court because hearing about her kids and what had happened to her kids was making her feel really sad. And the judge's like, I've heard both arguments, and no, I'm not complicating this record. You are going to sit in trial. It's part of your right as a defendant, and it's part of your due process. And so the judge said, no, you're staying here. And what was she so tepid about? What was she so affected about? Well, Detective Hermosillo's description of how he found the bodies of her kids buried in Chad Daybell's backyard. Explanation of how little JJ's remains were wrapped in a plastic bag, a white bag, and then a black bag, and then there was a lot of like tape all over his beautiful little face and her body, and they could still see that he was a baby boy, and he was still wearing the red PJs of one of the pictures that the detective had of when he was alive, one of the last pictures that was taken. And he said that some of that PJ was wet in body decomposition. And then of course he starts talking about Tylee, Ryan, and how you cannot even consider her remains as body. He said there were globs of flesh and bones. And he says how they had to, like, when they tried to pick it up with gloves, like it just fell through their fingers. And they had to go and very carefully commit those. And then he talks about how they were put in black bags and taken to the coroner's office, and then the coroner's office sat with them, and they sat through both autopsies. And of course, her weak mind is not willing to deal with these descriptions, and she much rather not be in court. But you know, the judge said, no, lady, you don't want to do the time, don't do the crime. I mean, the judge didn't say that, but it's what I was thinking when I heard that part. It's like, you've got to be kidding me. So yeah, that definitely Detective Hermosillo's gruesome details. And if you guys want the details, you certainly are welcome to go into any of these TV stations like Idaho News or Court TV or Hidden Crime, who are eventually putting the whole thing in recording. And it's a lot, and it's a lot of description, and it's just a lot of gruesomeness, and it's a lot of like objections by the defense and interruptions. And so I love it because I'm a former practicing attorney and I love courtroom drama, but I don't know that anybody, most people I don't think have the patience for that. So I enjoy it, and it's my pleasure to come here and give you a summary. I believe that Hermosillo is going, they started the cross-examination today, but I believe that it's going to probably take all of tomorrow, probably part of today and all of tomorrow to finish cross-examining him. And then there's going to be redirection probably from the prosecution. But make no mistake about it, through Detective Hermosillo, we are seeing the results of the dangers of people getting carried away by their emotions and allowing people that are manipulators to just tell them stories about what God says and what the Bible says. You know, the Bible says, I think it's in the book of 2 Timothy, the Apostle Paul wrote to one of his pastors, Timothy, in the last days, people will gather around them, teachers who will teach what their itching ears want to hear. And Shade Bell told Lori what her itching ear wanted to hear. And that is that she was very special. And she thought she was so special that at some point she decided that she was better off with Shade Bell and without her kids and without her fourth husband. She was deceived, as was Shade Bell himself. And it's pretty pitiful to hear the defense, because they're trying to stop the testimony and they're trying to ask questions about technicalities, but all they're doing is looking more and more desperate, and the jury is going to see right through them, and they're going to call this what it is. And you know, one of the things that they're saying is that Lori Vallow was not there when these crimes were committed. Yeah, but who had access to those children? And who refused to say what the children were or to cooperate with the whereabouts of the children? And who was caught in camera hiding all the things of the babies, like pictures and toys? And who called JJ's school to say he would no longer be in going to school because she was going to homeschool him? Who? Lori Vallow, ladies and gentlemen. In my humble opinion, she is guilty as charged. I know that she is alleged this and alleged that, but frankly, I'm not an attorney. I'm just a regular, everyday Joe telling you what my opinion is. And in my opinion, she is guilty. And in my opinion, the Judge Voice made the right call when he said, Missy, you are going to stay right here and you are going to witness the horror, the monstrosity of what you either did or allowed. And of course, he didn't put it in these words, but the bottom line is he did it for purposes of the preserving the record. But and I'm glad that he did that, and I'm glad that he justified his position in a very legal, civilized manner, like what I'm trying to do here. But since I'm not Judge Voice and I'm not an officer of the court, I'm just a mom, pastor, coach, giving you my opinions, my very unprofessional opinions about what's happening. I can tell you, I believe that she's guilty as charged, and that the jury is going to look right through it, and that we're all going to feel much better when her is behind bars permanently. And then Shade Bell, someone has to pay for what they did to these babies, and what they did to Tammy Daybell, and what they did to Charles Vallow. This demands justice. This type of crimes, and any other type of crimes, but particularly this, demand justice. This was Pastor and Coach Gene McIntyre, my friends. I'll come back with more. Bye.